Asherah? Did the God of the Hebrew Bible have a wife? Like all energies in the universe existing in pairs, is there a possibility that God also existed in a divine pair? God has had many manifestations across the many religions. There are also many commonalities, some of which essentially define the concept of God, quote unquote. Primarily, they are worshipped as the singular ultimate power of the universe. Many gods, typically in pantheistic religions, have wives, but was there also a Queen of Heaven in monotheistic Judaism, manifest as the ultimate consort of God, equally powerful and worshipped? And this article explores, the author says, the story of the forgotten goddess Asherah, or the wife of God. The Old Testament portrays God as the ultimate power of the universe, but scriptures and texts related to the Old Testament also offer tantalizing clues as to the possible wife of God. The ancient truth: the claim that God had a wife and she was worshipped by people in the Middle East has surfaced from time to time. Such claims are not new, and there's been much independent research into the presence of other gods and goddesses apart from the superentity of God as portrayed in the Old Testament. There is much evidence that ancient cultures of the Middle East worshipped many gods and goddesses as idols. One of the most prominent goddesses of these was Asherah, worshipped as the Queen of Heaven by the early Israelites. But many believe that the existence of Asherah was suppressed by the narrative of the Bible, which sought to hide the historical truth. In fact, the Bible states in multiple excerpts that there was indeed idol worship, and Asherah was one of the principal goddesses in idol form. From archaeological evidence to shreds of evidence from the Old Testament, there are many instances that support the existence of Asherah. Archaeological evidence from ancient temples finds that the god worshipped by the Israelites, known by the name of Yahweh, was worshipped alongside his wife Asherah. This is from archaeological evidence from ancient temples finds worshipped by the Israelites. Now, according to the significance of Asherah's existence, first came to prominence in 1967 when historian Raphael Patai compiled the evidence for Asherah in religious history and archaeology. Based on ancient texts, statues, and figurines, he saw evidence of God's existence not as a solitary god, but alongside a consort. Evidence in the archaeology: figurines discovered in Kun Tilet Ajrud, an archaeological site in the east of the Sinai Peninsula, dating back to the 8th century BC, speaks of Yahweh of Samaria and his Asherah, and Yahweh of Teman and his Asherah. Samaria refers to the central region of Israel, and Teman to the neighboring Edomites, confirming this as a reference to the God of the Israelites. The mention of his Asherah indicates a consort relationship between this ancient god and the Queen of Heaven. Similar inscriptions that refer to Yahweh and his consort have been discovered on tombs in Kirbet el-Kom, an archaeological site in the biblical kingdom of Judah that also dates back to the 8th century BC. There are other figurines and artifacts that also hint towards the worship of Asherah in the Middle East in the 8th and 9th centuries BC, from horned altars and figurines to other ritualistic objects. Many artifacts discovered scattered around much of the Middle East indicate that there was a cult of Asherah at some time in the 8th century BC. The pieces of evidence show that Asherah was once worshipped as a goddess of fertility and prosperity, spreading from Israel as far afield as Egypt. Most of the ancient inscriptions and texts ask for the blessing of Yahweh and Asherah together, which further strengthens the belief that Asherah is indeed the wife of God. Apart from archaeological pieces of evidence and temple remains, the Bible also offers clues regarding the worship of Asherah alongside Yahweh. Biblical references to Asherah: according to the Bible, Asherah was worshipped in the temple of Jerusalem alongside God as his consort and divine equal, and according to the Book of Kings, the goddess was housed in the temple complex, and rituals were regularly conducted in her worship. I don't remember at all reading this in the Bible, but anyway, I'm just reading the article for you. Many biblical scholars have concluded that a concerted effort was made by the priests who compiled the Hebrew Bible to remove all references to Asherah. However, they were not completely successful in this, and their failure suggests there was some popular support for a depiction of God which did not show him as all-powerful and solitary. Asherah appears in the books of Exodus, Chronicles, Kings, and Judges, where she is also referred to as Asherah or Athirat among the people. In addition, the description of Asherah as the Queen of Heaven is also first made in Bible, where she is twice referred to as such in the book of Jeremiah. Even though these verses confirm that Asherah was worshipped as an idol, the book of Jeremiah shows an entirely different perspective on Asherah. Jeremiah's conversation with God showed that God was disappointed by the idol worship of Asherah, and the reasons behind this were multiple. For example, God believed that the worship of Asherah in the form of offerings to figurines or statues was due to superstitious beliefs, and God believed that the offerings made by women were an effort to appeasement of other gods, which had come about because he had not kept them safe. Not just a minor goddess. According to some older passages in the Bible, almost half of the ancient population of Israel believed in other gods and goddesses like Asherah, and the people would also build temples and altars for their worship. This testimony offered by the Bible and the archaeological shreds of evidence of Asherah's existence often overlap. For example, the remains of Asherah statues found in Samaria match descriptions from the Bible, which confirms their existence and worship. There are also references in the Bible to God being a husband to another divine entity, or to the existence of a marital relationship between God and Asherah. These may have been suppressed, as Asherah's worship in idol form may have died out, but the clues remain. Asherah was once a popular goddess of one of the most enduring religious cultures on earth. However, just like the evolution of man, religious symbols also evolved. Therefore, it's not surprising that Asherah has been neglected and removed from public memory as a goddess. However, this does not mean we can dismiss Asherah as a mere religious theory. The evidence would seem to be clear. The Queen of Heaven existed in the Hebrew Bible as part of a divine pair alongside the all-powerful God of the Jews. And this is by Bipin Dimri. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. It's from Historic Mysteries. Thank you. My Patreon account, the daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.